Hi, and welcome to Digital Photo Mentor Quick Tip. Today I'm going to talk to you about keyboard shortcuts for Lightroom 5. Most of the ones I'm going to tell you about today will also work in previous versions of Lightroom with a couple of exceptions, and I'll let you know about those when we get to them. So let's dive right in, shall we? When you import your images into Lightroom, you should see something like this when they first come up in the library module. The first thing that I do when I go through my images is I decide which ones I'm going to keep and which ones I'm going to throw away or delete. So the first shortcuts I'm going to go through is just display modes inside of the library module in Lightroom itself, and how to flag things in the library module so that you can find them later, the ones that you like. Okay, so the first shortcut we're going to do is the sidebars on the side are kind of pesky. They're helpful to show you certain things, but you don't always want them there. So for now, I want to get rid of them because I want to see more of my images. So Tab on your keyboard simply gets rid of them. They close, hit Tab again, they come back. Okay? If you want to get rid of also the top and the bottom menu bars, Shift Tab will get rid of all of them. So now you see a lot more of your images, a lot bigger. Okay, so we're getting closer. We want to get to the point where, especially if you're working on a laptop, you can see your images as big as possible without a whole bunch of other stuff around. The thing at the bottom you see is called a toolbar right down here. To hide it, just click T on your keyboard, and you'll notice that it even shows you a shortcut to press T again to get it to show up. Okay, so T to hide and reveal the toolbar. You'll notice that most of the shortcuts make sense with the letter that they use, T for toolbar. Okay? There's a few later on that don't, and we'll make sure that we cover those as well. To get rid of this thing at the top, okay, this is your library filter. Okay, get rid of this thing at the top. So we're not filtering anything yet because we haven't done anything that we want to filter. Just use your backslash key on the keyboard. Okay, so backslash will hide that filter bar, and backslash shows it again. Okay, so we're getting really close. The last thing we want to hide is this little menu bar, this little toolbar up at the top. Okay, in older versions of Lightroom, this is one that does have a variation. Just using the F key on your keyboard will toggle through full frame or full view modes. Using a Lightroom 5, you need to hold the Shift key and press F as well. So Shift F toggles through full screen mode. So notice the one menu bar went away, hit it again, now you have no menu bars. Okay, so if you have something like this and you're wondering where did my menu bars go, you've probably just hidden them. So just another quick Shift F, or F if you're in an older model, will bring them back. So we're going to work in this mode just so we can see most of the pictures. The next thing we're going to cover is how do you flag your pictures for the ones that you want to select as your favorites. Okay, the simplest way to do this, first thing you need to do is view them larger. Okay, so the simplest way to view your image larger is to hit Return or Enter on your keyboard, and it brings it up to show you the full image. If you want to look at it even bigger, hit Enter again, and it goes into the zoom mode that you used last time, in this case 1:1. Hit Enter one more time and it goes back to what's called the grid mode, where you see your thumbnails. So you can do that by going through Enter, Enter, Enter. You can also get to the full image by clicking E on your keyboard. Okay? Once you get there, if you hit the space bar, it will zoom in or out depending on which one you want at the time. Okay? So space bar in, the zoom bar, space bar out. Okay? So now we're just going to need to know how to toggle back and forth going from one image to the next. That's pretty simple on your keyboard. It's the left and right arrow keys. So left will take you this way and right will take you forward. Okay. So we're going to go back to grid. To get back to grid, if you haven't used this shortcut before, is G on your keyboard. Okay. So hit G for grid. Again, another one that makes sense. So I'm going to go back to the first image. We can use your arrow keys on your keyboard or click it with your mouse, whichever is more convenient. Okay, and now I'm going to hit Enter to see the image full size. Next thing I want to do is decide on whether or not I'm going to keep them. So I'm going to zoom in using the space bar, and I can see that my poor little kitty, this is Munchkin, she's out of focus in this picture. So I don't want to keep this one. To mark it as a reject, just click X on your keyboard and then move on to the next one using the right arrow. This one is obviously better, but it's kind of got too much flash, so I'm not really crazy about that one either. Another reject for X. Okay, zoom in with your space bar, check focus. Always check your focus zoomed in, because sometimes when you're zoomed out it looks sharp, and zoomed in it's not quite. And sometimes when you zoom in, depending on the size of thumbnails and so on and the speed of your computer, it may take a while for the computer to draw the full size image, so make sure that it's fully drawn before you judge based on sharpness. This one is better, so I'm going to decide to pick this one. It's nice and sharp, and you can see her face. So P is the shortcut for pick. So another one that makes sense based on the letter, P for pick. Okay. So I would just go through quickly. This one I'm going to pick. This one I'm going to check focus. I'm going to reject because of sharpness. This one I'm going to pick, and so on. Okay, so I would just go through quickly and using P or X, choose my picks and my rejected. Okay. You can also leave something unpicked or unflagged. I tend to go through them all and label them one or the others because it's pretty clear cut to me. Either it's a good one or it's decent and I want to keep it and look at it, or it's not. Okay. So this one is kind of a maybe. I'm going to zoom in and I see that she's a little bit out of focus. I'm going to mark it as rejected. I'm going to mark this one as rejected. Now, if I decide that I want to change my mind on one of these, all you have to do is simply choose a different option. Okay, I've previously marked this one as rejected, but I can choose P for pick, or I can choose U, which is a new one, for unpick or unflag. So it removes any flag, whether it's reject or pick, and it just sets it back to no picks. Okay, no flags. So going back to grid mode, G again. Okay, there's a couple of other methods that you can use for flagging things or labeling things in the library module, and that is the number rating and also the color coding. Okay, so let's just go to the next one. On your keyboard shortcuts, you have a numbering system of 1 to 5 stars that you can use to assign to a picture. Number 5 would be your favorite, and Lightroom even creates a smart collection for you to show all of your images in your entire library that are marked with 5 stars. So anything that you want to go into that collection, just mark it as 5 stars. Anything 4 and lower, that's totally up to you how you use those numbers, and you just do them simply with the keyboard's 1 to 5 keyboard shortcuts. So number 1 sets it rating to a 1, number 2 is a 2, 3 is a 3, and so on. Okay, I'm actually going to reject that one. Okay, so go through and just pick your numbers based on 1 to 5. What I would normally do is pick all my flags first, and then once I had all the ones that I marked as picked, I would probably then go into rating them further down 1 to 5. Okay. The other thing that you can do is add a color flag. Okay, color flags can be used in a number of different ways. That's totally up to you to decide for your workflow. And the shortcuts for them are 6, which adds a red label. I'm going to go back to the grid module here because you can actually see that this has added a little red outline and a little red mark down the bottom here. Okay, you can see this one has got 5 stars. You can see this one is an X, which is a reject. You can see this one is a white, which is a pick. Okay, so all of the things that we've applied on the keyboard, you can see visually very easily. The next one, I'm going to hit 7, which is going to apply yellow around the thumbnail. The next one, I'm going to apply 8 or green. And the last one is 9 for blue. Okay, there is one more for purple, but it doesn't have a keyboard shortcut. You just need to select it, and you can do that on the toolbar. Okay, if you want to add purple, you can do that with the toolbar. If you want to remove one, you simply do it by using the same number. So I know that blue is 9. To remove the blue, I just hit 9 again. Okay. Green is 8. I hit green 8 again to remove it, but maybe I want to change it to red, so I'm just going to hit 6 and it changes it to red. Okay. Anytime you change the 6 to 9 number, it overwrites the other one. The same applies with the number rating. If you've previously rated something a 3 and you change it to 4, it changes it. Okay. So whatever number you entered last, that's what it becomes. Okay. The other thing that you can show on this is your backslash key, which is the filter. Once you've added some flags, you can then filter by the flags. So you can choose to show pics, you can choose to show the rejects, and actually delete them. So let's say I want to delete the rejects, okay? The next keyboard shortcut is similar to a lot of other programs, which is Command or Control A, and that is select all. So everything that's showing on the screen is now selected. If I want to delete these, simply hit the delete key. Again, a lot of this is fairly intuitive, which is why I really like Lightroom. It just makes a lot of sense. Now this dialog box that's just popped up, right, you'll see that it gives us two options. We can delete from the disk, or we can remove. Remove just means it takes it out of Lightroom but leaves the files on your hard drive. Delete from disk means that it removes them from both places and they will never be seen again. They're gone from your hard drive. So just make sure that when you hit delete from disk, you're pretty sure that you want them gone and you don't need those photos. And I highly do recommend deleting. Don't keep your rejects, things like the flash didn't go off or your picture is completely out of focus, which happens to everybody, as you can see. Delete them from their disk because it's just taking up extra space on your hard drive. Okay. I'm not going to do that in this case because I haven't really gone through these yet, and I'd like to look at my pictures a little bit closer first. So for now, we'll just leave them there. So that is pretty much it for the library module. If you want to bring all your panels back, you can do the Shift F and get your menu bar back, and you can do the Shift Tab to get all of your panels back, and now you've got all your controls, and you can move over into the next module. So the next module that I'm going to work in is the Develop module. I'm probably only going to work on pics that I've chosen, so I'm going to filter based on my flags, and I'm going to move over to the Develop module. The keyboard shortcut to go to that module is, as expected, D on your keyboard. So what it shows is your film stripped down the bottom of your little thumbnails, and it shows you your image full size. You still have the same options that you have for Tab to remove the side panels, and Shift Tab to remove all the panels, and Shift F to go full screen mode. So for now, we're gonna show our panels just so that you can see what I'm doing and what I'm working with. If you wanted to see your image full size, you know you can use the same controls inside the Develop module that you did in the Lightroom in the Library module. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I usually pull a few different sliders and I adjust clarity and things like that on my image and the brightness and the contrast and punch up the colors. So once I've done all of that, those are called global adjustments. I move into doing what's called local adjustments. Those tools have some keyboard shortcuts and they are easy to use. So all of your local adjustments, including the crop tool as well, are up on this little menu bar up here underneath the histogram. Okay, all of these ones up here. Okay. Now it's just reminded me that there's another shortcut. If you put your mouse over these little triangles, it shows you the highlight clippings. Just mouse over, and that will show you the shadow clippings. So the areas of your picture that are clipped or having no detail. There's a keyboard shortcut for that as well, and that is J on your keyboard. So if you hit J, it shows both areas of clipping. Choose J again, and that disappears. Okay, so if you want to just see how well you're doing and what detail you have in your image, J will show you the clipping. The first tool that I'm going to use is the crop tool. We're going to go through them in order here on the menu bar. So the first one is the crop tool. R on your keyboard is the shortcut for this one, and it brings you into the crop mode. In this case, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, get rid of the lamp over there. Now to get out of it, you can do two things. You can hit R again, or you can just hit Enter or Return, and it exits the crop mode. Okay? So R and Enter, or R and R. The next tool on the menu bar of the local adjustments is the spot removal or healing brush. And you'll notice that when you mouse over and leave your mouse hovering over these tools, on most of them, it will actually show you the keyboard shortcut. So when you hover over this one, it shows spot removal with a Q in brackets, and that is indeed the keyboard shortcut. So let's hit Q on the keyboard, and that opens up the dialog box for this tool. You can choose healing or cloning and set the opacity and a feather. You also have the ability to adjust the size of this one with your mouse if you have a scrolling mouse. So if you have a magic mouse from Apple or just a regular Windows mouse with a wheel or something that scrolls, you can move up and down, just changing the size. Okay, so scroll up and down and you'll see the size of your brush change. By holding your shift key down while you scroll, it will change the size of the feather zone. So that's that sort of buffer zone between the part that you're painting and the part that you're not painting, and the transition area. Okay, so the wider the feather, the more transition area, and the softer whatever it is you're doing will appear. Okay, so you can adjust both of those things. Now, new to Lightroom 5 is the ability to paint. So you can actually draw a line with this tool. In older versions of Lightroom 4 and older, it was just a single spot. Okay, so for this one, we're actually going to remove a spot down here. So what I normally like to do, now here's a quick neat little keyboard shortcut. If you have a tool activated and you press the the space bar, press your space bar, you'll notice that it gives you a magnifying glass. So if you click on the image where you want to zoom in, it zooms into 100% or 1:1. Then when you let go of the space bar, it gives you back your tool. So that's a really handy one to know. So I'm going to make this brush just slightly bigger than this spot, and I'm not going to paint, I'm just going to click on it. Now the tool usually picks an area that it's going to clone or heal from. In this one, it's chosen a color that's very similar. You can adjust the settings for it once you've done that. I'm going to choose 100%, which means it's going to choose from the areas around this area and fill it in here as well. Okay, so to close this tool, you can simply Q again. Okay, so activate the tool is Q, close it is Q, and we know to zoom out is our space bar. Okay, so space bar zooming out and Q to open and close that. Okay. The next adjustment tool that I use a lot is the gradient filter. So the keyboard shortcut from that, if you see by your mouse is hovering over it, is M. So I'm just going to apply a really quick one here. When you drag it in from the side, it allows you to set sort of that buffer zone again, the fade or the feathering mode. In this case, I'm just going to add a little bit of darkness on that side of the room, right? And then to close it, you just hit M again. Okay. Let's say I added one on this side. I hit my M key again, and I really don't like that one. It's desaturating, and that's not really the effect that I'm looking for. Just simply hit delete on your keyboard, and whichever of these pins, you can tell which one is activated because it's black. Whichever one is activated, it will delete it. Okay? One other shortcut that you can use with this tool is holding down the shift button as you drag it in from the edge. So that's handy if you're doing something that has a horizon, like you want to darken your sky and you want to keep it level with the horizon. Holding down the shift key will keep it parallel to the edge of the picture from which you're dragging it in. So I'm going to click here and drag in, and it doesn't allow me to tilt like it did before. It just pulls it straight in and keeps it parallel. Okay. So delete that one, M to close the tool. The next tool is one that is only in Lightroom 5. So if you have Lightroom 4 or older, don't worry about trying to find this one. You don't have it. It is actually one of the reasons that I highly recommend upgrading to Lightroom 5 if you do have an older model, and that is something called the radial filter. Okay. The radial filter is similar to the edge vignette or the graduated filter, but it doesn't have to come from the edge, and it can be off-centered. So to activate it, you can see by putting your mouse over it, it tells you right there, Shift M. So I'm going to hold the Shift key and click M. Now I get that same little crosshairs again, but this time you're actually drawing a circle. So I'm going to draw a little circle around my kitty cat. Okay? And anything that I'm applying in the sliders applies outside of the circle. Okay, now I'm just going to do a really drastic effect so that you can see how these things work. The lower the feather, the harder edge the line. The higher the feather, the softer the edge. You can also invert it to apply it to the inside of the circle. Okay, I don't have any specific keyboard shortcuts for those, but getting into and out of the tool is Shift M. The thing that I do most often with this tool is simply darken my edges. Okay, and that just allows you to draw the eye into your subject. Okay, I'll darken the highlights down, maybe clarity, because then it sort of blurs everything around your subject and it draws them into the center, into my kitty cat. Okay. with anything that you do in terms of adjustments in Lightroom or Photoshop, make them be subtle so that you're not overpowering. When you have somebody look at your image for the first time, you don't want them to look at it and say, wow, great processing. You want them to say, great image. Okay. So to close the tool, same keyboard shortcut again, Shift M. We have one more up on this toolbar here, and that is the adjustment brush. Okay, so the adjustment brush is the most flexible of all. It allows you to paint in any kind of adjustment that you want to do. So the keyboard shortcut to activate that is K, and you get the same little circle again, and the same shortcuts on your mouse and shift mouse work to change the size of it. Okay. I'm going to say that I'm going to want some clarity on my cat and maybe a little bit more contrast. And what that's going to do is just punch up the fur a little bit, okay, and give a little bit of extra sharpness on her. Okay. Now you'll notice that she's red. Okay. I haven't painted with red. It looks like I've painted with red. What you're seeing there is actually called the mask or overlay. Okay. And there's a keyboard shortcut for that, of course, and that is O for overlay. So if you hit O on your keyboard, the overlay goes away. If you hit O, it comes back again. Okay. It comes in a number of different colors as well, actually. Red works well for lots of scenes like this, like if you're doing a scene in nature where there's lots of green. If you want to change the overlay color, just hold the Shift button down and click O again, and it toggles through the different colors. Now you can see that the mask or the overlay is green. The next one is white and black. I don't see white and black working on a lot of things. I typically use red or green because it allows me to see where I've painted, and then I just turn it off to see the result. Okay. Another really handy keyboard shortcut in the Develop module is one that I use all the time, because now we've done a few things to this picture. We've done some global adjustments and we've done some local adjustments on just pieces or parts of the image. I want to see what it looked like before compared to what it looks like now. The same shortcut in the Library module will bring up your toolbar, and you can go and use the before and afters here. I don't use those quite so much. I prefer another method, which is simply just hitting the backslash key on your keyboard. Okay, and that will actually change the display to show the before picture. So you can see on the screen now, this is what I started with, and then hit it again and it goes back to after. Okay, so the cat has a lot more contrast and punch and color than in the first version. Okay, hit T to turn off our toolbar again. Right, so again, before and after is the backslash key. Okay, there's only a couple of more that I use here inside of the Develop module, and that will wrap up for today. This one is really, really handy, and I use it a lot. If you're using a laptop to do your processing, you'll notice that when you open these panels on the side, they tend to have lots of space and they take up a lot of space, and you have to scroll up and down a lot. So I use something called solo mode. If you right click on this panel here where it says basic, so right click on the actual word itself and choose solo mode. If it isn't already ticked off, click it so that it ticks it off. I'm going to untick it to show you what happens when it's not. So now when I go to open the next one, you'll notice that basic panel is open and tone curve. Then I'm going to open the next one and the next one and the next one. So now I'm all the way down into detail, sharpening, and noise reduction. But to get back to the top, I got to scroll all the way up here. So turning on that solo mode, what it does is when I open a different panel, let's say I go back to my detail panel, okay, all the other ones are closed. I'm going to go back to tone curve and it closes detail. So what it does is it just leaves one open at a time. And then I use the keyboard shortcuts to scroll through them. And I do this quite a lot. And I generally work my way down the right hand side. So I start with adjustments in the basic, then I work down to the ones below it. So for this example, I'm not going to do all of them, but I'm going to show you some of the shortcuts. So number one is for basic. So your keyboard shortcut is Command or Control on your keyboard and 1. Okay, so because it was opened, it's now closed it. Command and Control 1 will open the basic panel again. Command or Control 2 is for tone curve. 3 is HSL. 4 is split toning. And we're actually going to do a split tone here, so I'm just going to stop here and demonstrate that for you. Okay, so I'll just do a little split tone, give her a little brown. Okay, and continuing on. Command or Control 5 takes you down to the detail panel. 6 is lens correction. 7 is effects, and 8 is camera calibration. Okay. The only exception, you'll notice that the histogram stayed open the entire time, even when you're in solo mode, because it's really handy to be able to see your histogram. If you hit Command or Control 0, it will close the histogram as well, and open it again with Command and Control 0. Okay. So for the most part, those are most of the shortcuts that I use inside of the library in the Develop module. I hope this has been helpful for you and speeds up your workflow a little bit. Feel free to download the PDF of the list of shortcuts that I've mentioned here today and print it off so that you can use it as your own reference. Take care, and we'll see you again on the next Ask Darlene tips.